Thanks for tuning in here to Proline TV for our NASCAR coverage as we take a look this week at another round of playoffs in the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. And we have New Hampshire to talk about, the Mobile One 301. And we're also going to wrap up what happened to wrap up the round of 16 at Bristol on Saturday night. CJ Radoon joining me from RotoWire.com. How's it going, CJ?
Going all right into the second round of the playoffs, and we keep trucking along.
Yes, and there really weren't any major surprises as far as the drivers who did not make it. I guess the biggest one, of course, being Bowman. He really tried hard as he could at the end of that race to get in, but it just wasn't to be. And that's what happens when you have some really bad races to start off. In the playoffs. It's unforgiving. But as far as Bristol itself, and I know there's a lot, everybody's talking about how they change the tire, try to manipulate the race and see if they could, make things a little bit interesting. And they sure did. Say what you want about whether or not you agree with what they did, like it, don't like it. It was a lot better than what we've seen at Bristol in the last several years. I don't know if that's the answer, but I'd much rather take what we saw on Saturday night than anything that we've seen in the last few years.
It definitely spiced things up. I think it caught everybody unaware in that first tire run. Once the problems started biting, they started biting everyone. And then I think after that, everybody just kind of dialed it back and went into tire saving strategy. It was interesting. I guess we know from the last time that we had this that temperature really is the factor at that track and whether or not it can make the tires degrade as NASCAR and Goodyear intend. The temperature was cool Saturday night, and throughout the entire race, you never had rubber going into that track. You didn't have any black lines building up lower down the bottom. You had all the marbles up top, and I think that temperature and the ability of the tires to melt into the track was the difference. And instead, they just marbled up, sent all that debris up to the top of the track. Everybody had to run the bottom and basically ran every tire down to its cords. Thankfully, we didn't see a bunch of tire failures, but definitely made passing and the ability to manage tires throughout a fuel run the difference maker for winning the race or not.
Yeah, I mean, it was the only thing that I was disappointed at, and I know that there were some viewers like Lana who was not disappointed in the outcome because she had Christopher Bell. Nice. But and we talked about it on Saturday that, Bell, because if he was going to get good odds, may not be a bad choice. And I think he went off on my book at 12-1, which was a nice number for Christopher Bell. But the fact of the matter is Christopher Bell stole the race, didn't deserve to win. But this is what Christopher Bell does. And he's starting to become, I guess, a closer, which is really good for him because he doesn't always have to win like that. He's shown that he could lead laps. He's shown that he can win races just like anybody. But this year, more than ever, especially we've seen it at the road course races, and we saw it just again here, is that he's not doing anything. And then all of a sudden, he just pops up. And I'm not saying he's not doing anything, but he's hovering around the top 10 and he's just hanging in there and he's not really looking like he's dangerous. But then all of a sudden, at the end of the race, things just kind of work out for him. And there he is stealing the race because if Keselowski, of course, there's no late caution. Keselowski's going to win the race. I don't know how he feels. And I know it was a pretty fair way for him to end the race too. He didn't try to dump Bell. He gave him a little bump, didn't work, and so be it. Now, if that was Keselowski in the playoffs needing to get to the next round, I'm not sure that we would have seen the same effect. But maybe, I mean, the rules now, you can't purposely dump anyone, but I think he would have found a way to be a little bit more aggressive. Anyway, but the fact was there were a lot of drivers that were hanging around. I know the 6 drivers, matter of fact, the 6 drivers we took, like 5 of them we're like constantly in the top 5 and top 10. I was figuring there's no way we're not going to win this race now. We got all these drivers. It's constantly up there. And then sure enough, it took that late caution. And then you had the 2 cars. I don't know if it was, what was it, Zane Smith on the final restart. And I'm not sure. I think he was trying to side draft. Who was the one he was side drafting with?
I forget who he was side drafting with, but he was one of the 3 in the top 3 spots that kind of set up that opening of the bottom.
Opening, yes.
If you will, that both Bell and Keselowski were, Bell and Keselowski were able to get through. Ultimately, that was what made the difference. The bottom line was it throughout all the night, and on that restart, him racing whoever it was just parted the seas for both of those drivers.
Yeah, and Zane Smith actually had a good day too. You know, he was constantly up there. But look, the fact of the matter is, this was the type of race we want to see more of compared to where we've been. It's still not the Bristol that we love. And I'm just glad that there are a lot of people that understand this. So it's not like we're like the very few that are complaining that Bristol isn't any good anymore. I mean, they know it. They know that that's why they're trying these things. They're trying to do whatever they can to get Bristol back to the way it was. I don't know what the answer is to that, but like I said, at least it was a lot more exciting. There were the cautions that made things unpredictable, and that's a lot better than seeing Kyle Larson or Denny Hamlin lead hundreds of laps and boring us to sleep.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that this is the best way to do it, but in the meantime, until we figure out exactly what needs to change in order to make the racing better, I guess this is the best that we can do. And it was definitely an improvement from, 496 of 500 laps led by one of those 2 guys.
And it was actually, especially when and I remember there was one part of the race, I don't know if you remember, where something happened to Larson. And they were showing the split screen, and something was just about going bad for Hamlin. And I'm looking at that and go, this is great. Get rid of both of them at the same time and open this up so we can have, a potluck of potential winners. And that's really what happened. It sucked that our drivers didn't take advantage of it, but that did make the race a lot more wide open. And we got ourselves a much better race. But yeah, they got to figure things out there. And they've got an off season to do it. So we'll see. I mean, at least that they're going to, I don't know if you've heard anything, but we know they're going to continue to mess around with it until they get it right. So whatever they do next time that we come to Bristol, I don't think we're going back to where we were. I think it's either, well, we're going to try something similar to this, or we got to do something different. So that's good. At least I just hope the days of dominating winners here, I just hope that's over.
I'm not sure that that's completely over. I think what I read into the analysis and the comments from NASCAR and the teams afterward is this is definitely going to be what they try to do as things go forward. So whenever we race at Bristol, you can expect to have this type of tire combination, and Goodyear trying to drive the excessive wear or just more wear in general. I think what it showed me Saturday night is that it's highly temperature dependent, though. So if we have a race where, even if it's a night race, if the temperature is 80 plus degrees on the track, I think we're still going to see the tire buildup on the track. And I think that negates a lot of the tire wear that Goodyear and NASCAR are trying to dial in. So I think it's going to be very temperature dependent. However, now with 2 races in the bag of it being a cold temperature, I think we know now what the true defining factor is. And so you're going to see a lot more attention paid from these teams and crew chiefs to what the forecast is going to be during the race versus maybe, certainly most other tracks. I did see one comment from Rudy Fugel basically saying that who knows whether this car can actually race well at Bristol, but from his opinion, the track actually needs to be resurfaced to get concrete back to what it was back in the 90s.
Okay.
Thousands, back when the racing was good. So I think we're going to see this kind of dichotomy of either a really boring race because it's warm, or really exciting race because it's cold until such time as either the car changes or Bristol ends up repaving the concrete.
I mean, what would be the holdup of why wouldn't they just repave it? What would they be? What could they possibly think would be a bad idea to do that?
I would think Bristol would be all for it because they've been the ones showing willingness to try things completely different, like putting it on the track and all this other kind of stuff that they're trying to do. I think Bristol very much wants to go back to what the racing was, so I think they'll take those comments pretty seriously, and we'll see ultimately what ends up happening.
All right, let's take a look at the standings, and of course we have now eliminated drivers. So Bowman is out. He's the big one, as I mentioned. And here are the remaining drivers. So this is based on the standings, of course. So if the standings were like this after the Roval, which is the next elimination race in 3 weeks, then these would be the 8 drivers getting through. So these are the 4 drivers who have work to do. Not a whole lot at all. I mean, there's only three points.
3 points
separate them. This will be completely different after the first stage on Sunday. But this is the way it is. And the good thing is again, they all have a shot. So everybody has a shot with the new round coming in. And I think you probably cut off like right about here where there's a little breathing room with the top 5, but very little. I mean, all it takes, as we saw on Saturday, I mean, Chase Elliott was very nervous after what happened to him. And that's all it takes. You have one bad race from any of these drivers, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, any of them on Sunday, and they're going to be right on the bubble for the next race. So that's just the way the playoff system is right now. And, I don't know what you think as far as your look ahead, and anything changed. Obviously, I see no reason to change your mind regarding Chase Briscoe as a sleeper. Let's see what the odds are too. Let's see, because he's not getting sleeper odds right now anymore, I don't think.
Shouldn't be.
So here are your favorites. All right, 4, 4, 5, 5, 5. Come on, give us a break here. All right, so Briscoe's 8, Elliott 10. So those are the 2 as far as the top drivers that have the best odds. And then you've got the long shots. So out of these long shots, which one of these, what are they, 5 long shots? Is it just obviously Logano, or do you think Bubba or maybe even Reddick?
I think it's obviously Logano based on his experience and his ability to come through with clutch performances. But Bubba Wallace is making a very strong case. I think he has definitely stepped up his game as this season has entered the closing stages, and definitely in the playoffs as well. So the consistency that was not in Bubba Wallace's game prior to these playoffs seems to be there now. So as long as he's able to keep doing that, I think he could play spoiler. But I think Logano is the obvious long shot there. And then if you believe Wallace and team can keep their consistency that they've got going right now on through another 7 races, then he might be a decent sleeper as well.
Yeah, I tell you, as far as these odds, if I did not put any money on these drivers right now, and this is the first time I'm thinking about it, I don't know who would you take if you had between these, between these 5 at 4 to 5, Larson, Hamlin, Blaney, Bell, Byron. If you had to pick just one of them, who would you pick?
I'd probably pick Blaney.
Okay.
He's got more upside potential. The odds are just, maybe barely fractionally better, but I do think that Blaney with his team Penske, I think they've got a little bit more upside potential. Whereas I think Larson and Hamlin are really hit and miss. Yes, they can go out and win and they can dominate, but I think Blaney can get it done more clutch, more walk-off style than the other 2.
Yeah, I'm going to still hold on to Bell, but Blaney would be my second choice. And then for me, if I was just going in here saying I can only put money on one driver, this week, can only do it, I'm going to do it on Briscoe.
Totally
And that's
agree.
because I think Briscoe has a better I just think Briscoe has a better chance to win on Sunday than Blaney. And therefore, I think if he goes out there and wins, his odds are going to wind up evening out to Blaney's. And so I could just wait to get Blaney maybe next week. I don't know what his record is. What's next week?
Kansas.
Okay, so I'd have to find out myself how his record. I know his Roval after that, so I'm sure he wants to be in good. Even though he's won it, it's a road course. So so anyway, yeah. What about you? You agree Briscoe would be the play?
Totally. Yeah, 100% agree with that. Briscoe has just come on too strongly. You see Joe Gibbs Racing being at the top of their game. Briscoe arguably right up there with Hamlin and Bell. So if not even surpassing at least Bell. So Briscoe for sure in my mind.
Okay. So there you go. That is what it looks like as far as the championship. Now we're going to get us going for the race. Coming up a little bit later on, we'll talk Formula One. We haven't done that in a while since your trip. There's a race this week, so we'll get into that. But let's get started now for the race. The 301, the Mobile 301, Mobile 1 301. A new sponsor, right? I don't think I've ever heard of Mobile One before.
Yeah, I think last year it was the USA Today 301. I did a double take when I read the sponsor this time as well. I wasn't sure if it was 1301 or how they were doing it. But yes, Mobile One 301 at New Hampshire.
Okay. So who do you think is the favorite of the race? Do you think? Well, I tell you what, before we get into this, let's just make sure that we've got the trends, the race trends for the track. Because there's only 3 NextGen races at New Hampshire. And this is pretty easy as far as how to judge trends at New Hampshire from manufacturers to starting positions, things of that nature. It's been all Toyota. So it's 3 Toyota winners, even though Bell's won twice. And all 3 have started in the top 5. And now there are a couple of notes. One, this is the first time they're racing in the playoffs. So they're racing in September. They previously have raced in June and July. Do you think that will matter at all?
It will matter, but they'll adapt. So I don't think it's going to be so drastic as to not make Toyota a favorite still, even in the race. So I think JGR, given their strength where they are, the fact that they have won so many of these races, Toyota and Ford have been really good here in the past, Toyota specifically with the NextGen car. I think it makes a difference, but it shouldn't change the overall outcome.
Okay. And then the other thing I noticed was practice actually doesn't really matter. So the reason is because last year they had the rain came out on Saturday, and they were not able to get in qualifying, I believe. I think qualifying was shut out. And practice, they only had, I think every driver except the only driver who did not get out there, because there was only 7 laps raced in practice before the rain came, was Christopher Bell. So Christopher Bell did not get a chance to practice and still won the race. And if you look at it in the other race that I think it was Bell had won, I have to double check. I think his practice speed was pretty weak. So it had no effect at all on whether or not you thought, okay, he's got a fast qualifying run, he's got a fast practice run. So take a look at it. Matter of fact, if I look at it here, Truex is the only one that really had a good Saturday all out. Truex had second fastest in qualifying, second fastest in practice. So in 2022, Bell started 4th, but his practice speed was 20th. So basically, Christopher Bell has won twice here and has not really needed a good practice run to do it. So basically, it mattered for Truex. It didn't matter for Bell. What that means to me is in only 3 races, I'm not going to take too much stock in it. And then I'm just going to pay attention to the other little things, like Toyota has been really good here, winning all 3 races, and you really need to qualify and start up front.
Yeah, New Hampshire is a single groove, narrow because of that single groove racetrack, which makes passing really difficult. So track position and qualifying are very important. Toyota, as you said, dominated by winning the last 3, all of the NextGen races. And Chevrolet hasn't won it since 2016 with Kevin Harvick. And in fact, I think if you look at the last 20 races, they've only won 3. If you cut that to 19, it was only 2. So Chevrolet has been very much behind. New Hampshire is very much a track position track unless cautions start coming out and people start having tire wear problems. But qualifying up front and driving a Toyota seem to be the keys to victory here.
Yeah, and the thing is, though, keep this in mind, is that Ford has actually done pretty well on Saturday. You know, they've qualified well, they've practiced well, they just haven't been able to win a race. So I'm not telling you to just, hey, it's all Toyotas. Just bet all the Toyota drivers. I'm not saying that. Give them the favorite. They deserve it. But I think, if you like a Ford driver, then keep an eye on a Ford driver. Chevy is the 3rd manufacturer here. They just are. So do that what you want. All right, similar tracks. So you've got Phoenix, which is an asphalt and flat track, similar to New Hampshire. You've got Richmond, which is a flat track. It's also a short track. And Dover is also a mile track. So those, and Phoenix is also a mile track too. So I'd be looking at Phoenix, Richmond, and Dover. Maybe is Phoenix the most similar, or would you say another track?
I would actually say Martinsville.
Martinsville. Okay.
Yeah. New Hampshire is a long straightaway flat turn track. There's progressive banking, but it's only I want to say 2 to 7 degrees. So it's virtually flat and you can't run anywhere off of the bottom. Braking and your braking points and being able to manage the throttle through the turn are very important at this track, and being able to get out front and stay out front. And I think that very much is the same kind of situation that you end up with at Martinsville, despite the fact that Martinsville is a short track. So I personally would compare it more closely with Martinsville.
All right. So there you go. So we've got a bunch of tracks to help us out with Martinsville potentially being at the top. And speaking of Martinsville, so we've had one race at Martinsville that was won by Denny Hamlin.
Toyota.
And Toyota finished 2nd and 3rd with Christopher Bell and Bubba Wallace. So there you go. Also, let's see, anybody else did well. Larson was 5th. Elliott was 4th. Chastain was 6th. Those are some of the other ones that did well. Nobody really, the only playoff driver left that didn't do well were Byron and Cindric. So those are the only 2 drivers that did not have good, as far as the playoff drivers, those are the only 2 who did not perform well. And I'm not surprised by either driver, because both drivers do not race well here at New Hampshire. We'll get into that. Okay, so let's get started now with the odds of the race and who you think is going to be the favorite. This should be easy, right?
It's either going to be Christopher Bell or Denny Hamlin, but I'm probably going to flip the coin and say Denny Hamlin.
Wow, really? Okay.
Yeah, Bell surprised me. Really? No way. Wow. Okay. I'll take it.
Yeah, at least they're tied. Look at them all. Look how tight they are.
So they don't know.
Yeah.
So they have no idea who's going to be successful here, I guess.
Yeah. So they have 6 drivers. Well, really, Bell is the heavy favorite. And
Sure.
Then you get double the money between Larson, Hamlin, Blaney, Briscoe, and Logano. You got 5 drivers that are all sitting there within a point of each other. But with Bell, you have to look. Of course, he's won 2 out of 3 races, but that's not it. Bell has 7 wins in 11 races at New Hampshire over 3 different series. He's nobody has the this is the craziest Xfinity stat we're ever going to give you. And that is that Christopher Bell has raced here 4 times in Xfinity Series, winning all 4. He also has a truck win here out of 2 truck races. So, and by the way, when he won those races in the Xfinity Series, he led an average of 118 laps a race. So he dominated here. And then he, of course, has won 2 out of 3 NextGen races. The only one he didn't win, he was on the pole. His average starting position NextGen is 3.3. And he was also runner-up in 2021 in that one. So there you go. So Bell is the heavy favorite. But as we try to figure out what to do with the rest of them, Larson, Hamlin, Blaney, Briscoe, and Logano, I actually like Briscoe because we have to keep in mind that if you look at it here, he's driving Truex's. This is Truex's car, Truex's team. He won a couple of years ago. That's big. But also, he's gotten better all 4 races he's been here. And his last 2 results here were 10th and 2nd. So he's coming up a runner-up finish. And get this is maybe even more important. His average starting position in the NextGen is 26.3. And yet, in his last 2 finishes, as I said, he's finished 10th and 2nd. He's also had a good result over at Dover this year. And as far as Martinsville, he finished 9th. So that would be my pick. Who do you like out of those 5?
I agree. I think Briscoe has everything going for him right now. Truex was very good at New Hampshire. He's in that car. Joe Gibbs Racing has been very good at New Hampshire, and he's been improving. The reason you can put Hamlin and Bell, obviously in that pocket as well. Bell, obviously, with the success that you described. The reason I put Hamlin on top is just his longer record. He's got 31 starts, 3 wins, 19 top 10s, 11 top 5s. And even if you look at last year's race where he didn't fare too well, he qualified 14th and finished 24th. He still led 43 laps in that race. So Hamlin's able to get out front here. He can be one of the ones to contend with. He almost always finishes inside the top 10, if not the top 5 here. But I do think Briscoe, all the JGR cars are going extremely well right now. I think Briscoe's got momentum on his side, very hungry. And then for all the reasons, like you said, improving, he's got confidence. He's in the car that Truex did so well at this track in. So I think Briscoe out of this bunch, then give me Denny Hamlin and Ryan Blaney after that.
Yeah, Hamlin, I think what I like about Hamlin are the odds. I think that you're getting good value with Denny at 6-1. And and also get this, his average starting position in NextGen is 16th. So really it's just a matter if he goes out there and he has 2 top 10 finishes in the NextGen. So he goes out there and has a really good qualifying run. Watch out for Denny Hamlin, who, as you mentioned, as we just talked about, he won Martinsville. He also won Dover and was 2nd at Phoenix. So yeah, Hamlin is going to be pretty good here with those odds. And then the other ones, even though Larson has 6 top 5s and 3 runner-ups, there's negatives here. There's negatives of he's only led 22 laps in his career here in 14 races. And maybe the biggest one of all is he has still not gotten out of his rut. And last week was the biggest example. He dominated Bristol the last 2 times he was on the track. Just easy winning, 800 plus laps led, whatever it was in the 2 races. And the car was terrible. And so there's a big something wrong with what's going on with Kyle Larson. We know he's the capable driver to just get it done, win on Sunday, and everything's fine again. But when you have other drivers with the odds similar to Larson, I just don't know why I would take Larson when there's other choices here. Even though he finished 4th and 3rd his last 2 trips here, when he started 15th and 19th, another driver that has not qualified well here in NextGen with an average starting position of 14th.
Yeah, I think even if he qualifies well here, just because of the laps led, like you said, 22 out of 14 career starts, I don't know that he's the one that I'm going to choose. I think Kansas is going to be more to his style and more up his alley to be able to do something well at and see if he can really turn it around. Now, if he finishes in the top 5, top 10 again here, perhaps it's a sign for the rest of the playoffs that he's got things going the right direction again and starting to build momentum. But like you said, just been in a rut. Bristol was a terrible race for him. It's going to be tough for him to overcome that, and he's coming to a place where he's not too great at. So even with the top qualifying effort from Larson, I think I'd still probably avoid him and hold off until Kansas.
And then Blaney and Logano, the Penske drivers, I think they're both decent options. I mean, you're getting 7-1. Blaney, though, I was more confident with him going in last week on Saturday with Bristol, but I'm not seeing it here yet. I think he's been better at these tracks, so it's sure possible that he can come out and he's a different Blaney and he's going to do really well. But history has not been good to him really here. NextGen, he does not have a top 5. They've been pre-NextGen. His best finish is 18th, even though he started an average of 6.2 in the 3 races. His average finish is 17.5. So I'd say if you're going to take a driver here, I'd actually roll the dice with Logano because he's got a history of winning here. He also has 9 top 10s in his last 14 races here with 7 top 5s, a runner-up, and a win. He was second just a couple of years ago, NextGen. So even though Blaney has done a much better job than Logano this season, I think, again, it's like I said with Larson. I mean, there's just other drivers that I'd choose from before I'd go to Blaney this week. But if I had to choose between Blaney and Logano, I think I'd go Logano.
I agree with you on that. Even if you just look at the NextGen stats, despite the fact that Logano has 2 finishes outside of the top 20, the other one was the runner-up finish. Even with that horrible record in the NextGen car, he still led 25 laps in the race and he finished 24th and started 12th. So Logano knows this track. He's won at it a couple of times. He can figure out a way to the front. We just haven't seen that yet from Blaney. So I would trust Logano this weekend more than I would trust Blaney.
Okay. So let's now move it to the next group. All right. And I guess we can go, let's go with these 3. You got Byron, Elliott, and Reddick. And out of this group, it's not a good group. So I'd go with Elliott. Definitely wouldn't take Byron. I think it's between Elliott and Reddick. And I mean, Reddick has been okay. He has 6th place finishes in his last 2 trips, which is fine. He led 53 laps last year. And he's also never started in the top 5. So if he gets a good starting position, Reddick is somebody that you might want to keep an eye on. He's got he also has, nice little edge driving a Toyota over Elliott and his Chevy. But what did Reddick do at Martinsville? Let's see. Do I have it here? Oh, I went away from that. All right, let me go back. All right, here it is. Martinsville, Reddick was just 14th. So nothing special. And what was Elliott? Elliott was 4th. Okay. So, maybe that's another reason that maybe you take Elliott over Reddick. Elliott has not been a prize here. He has a couple top 5s. That's it. And he did have a runner-up in 2022. So he does have that. But his average starting position is 5.4, and his average finish is 11.8. Again, I don't really like any of these drivers, but I'd probably go with Elliott slightly over Reddick.
I agree with you. Sorry, I'm not being controversial today, but even though Elliott only has 2 top 5s and 3 top 10s out of his 11 New Hampshire starts, he does have 140 laps led. So he is able to find his way to the front. The finishes just haven't been coming. Reddick's been pretty decent, a handful of top 10s at New Hampshire. So, whatever, nothing overly thrilling. He's been okay. Obviously, nothing to talk about with Byron. He's never even scored a top 10 here. His best finish was 11th, which he did twice. Past 2 races, he's finished 24th and 26th, despite the fact that he started 7th and 3rd. So Byron definitely throw out. Reddick is just kind of mediocre. Elliott, if I was forced to choose out of these 3 alone, would be the one that I would go with.
And both of the drivers, I mean, Reddick, I think it's been, let's see, for Reddick, he has 1 top 5 in his last like 10 races. And Elliott is definitely in his weakest part of the season. He has only 1 top 5 since Sonoma, which is about 8 races. So yeah. So and again, and you mentioned Byron. Forget Byron. I mean, I think all William Byron wants to do is get a top 10. I think he gets top 10. He should be happy.
That would be his best finish ever.
It would be.
He'd be more than thrilled, I'm sure.
Yeah. Even though he started in the top 10 in all 3 races.
Yes.
But his average finish is 17th. Okay. Now we've got some long shots here. And out of this group, I think it's this is another thing too in this race. There are some good drivers at the top. You saw all those 7-1 drivers, and Bell is a heavy favorite. But there really aren't a lot of options when you get past those guys. This is not a long shot race. There's a couple of ones we'll get into, but I'm not really excited about the long shots. So Wallace probably is the way I'm going to go here. You know, he's driving a Toyota. He has 2 top 10s and 1 top 5 in NextGen. He wrecked last year, which was actually the worst starting position he had. So maybe he just didn't have a good car. I don't know. I don't know if it was his fault or not. So he's had good starting positions here generally. But that's it. I mean, I don't know what Kyle Busch is doing 28-1. I mean, he should be 50-1. Enough of Kyle Busch. It's just, I mean, you saw last week. It's just, there's nothing. It's just not going well for Kyle Busch. Buescher, he's never led a lap here. And Chastain has led only 3 laps here, even though his 10th place finish last year was his best finish. So I guess there's that. So yeah, I mean, this is just a not very exciting group, but I guess I'd go with Wallace.
Yeah, Wallace or Chastain for me. I would put Wallace on top just because of how well he's been doing. He was having a great race at Bristol until problem not of his own making ended up crashing him out of that one. I think he could have had another good finish. He was 3rd and 8th in the first 2 NextGen races here at New Hampshire, ended up crashing out, like you said, of the race last year. Chastain has a handful of top 10s. So this is a race where maybe from a fantasy perspective, you want to try to get him in your roster. But again, Wallace is the one that has the momentum in this sport. Momentum is king, and Chastain doesn't really have it right now. Kyle Busch, I agree with you, would have been great a couple of years ago, but he crashed out of this race 4 out of the last 5 times.
Yeah, and Wallace was 3rd at Martinsville, as we mentioned before. So another reason to maybe go his way. Kyle Busch, I can't even believe when I looked at his history here that he's crashed out in 4 of his last 5 races here.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And this is somebody that has a good history at this track. Just another...
Led 1,134 laps through his 33 starts with 3 victories, 11 top 5s, and 16 top 10s. But like you said, crashed out of 4 out of the last 5.
Okay. With this group, the ones that would interest me would be Keselowski and Gibbs. Gibbs, you've got the Toyota. And poor Gibbs, you know, he leads the most laps at Bristol, and it just didn't work out for him again. So the only thing with Gibbs, though, is he's raced here twice, and he has nothing to show for it. So that's what I'd be a little bit apprehensive about. But his best starting position is 18th. So if he has a good Saturday, I'm willing to look his way, and I'm willing to lose half of those points. And I'd take him at 15-1 if he has a good Saturday. But that's it's a gamble. Keselowski, meanwhile, he's got a couple of wins, bunch of top 5s, almost 50% of his races are top 5s here. That's pretty impressive. And he does have a 5th and a 7th in his 3 NextGen races here. And strangely enough, in all 3 NextGen races, he has started 9th. So you might want to make a bet there if you do that sort of thing for qualifying on Saturday. Josh Berry would be interesting if he wasn't so like out of it. He was 3rd last year here. And then Cindric at 45-1. Yeah, he just does not have a good history here. So if he qualifies well, and because he's never started in the top 20 here. And that's going to be the thing that we're going to be saying on Saturday. We're going to be talking about which drivers qualified better. Have anybody qualified better than they ever have? And is it possible that could mean that they're going to have a better Sunday than they've ever had? So, yeah, I don't know. But like I said, Gibbs and Keselowski are the ones that interest me the most. But I'd probably start with Keselowski.
Yeah, at these odds, I agree with you on all counts. Barry, man, if he had some better luck, he might be the one to go with. But I do think I would roll the dice on this one and go with Gibbs, mainly because Joe Gibbs Racing is so strong right now, coming off such a great Bristol race again. Like you said, a lot of stuff going that team's direction, plus his teammates have been really good at New Hampshire. So maybe he can borrow some setup. I would go with Gibbs just based on the odds. I think Keselowski is the next logical choice. Barry's out of it for me only because he's had such poor luck in the last 3 races since the playoffs began.
The thing that as much as I think Wallace is not a bad long shot pick, Kevin believes this could be his week. The thing that I just have to convince myself with is at this stage of the playoffs. I know it's early, but it's still, we're in the next round. These are all good drivers now. There's no bad drivers here for the most part. Most of these drivers can get to most of them can get to the. I don't know why I'm muted. Can he win a big race like this? Yeah. That's the thing that I don't know. I don't know. That's it. But at least I'm getting 22-1.
I think Wallace is a great choice. He's been pretty good recently at New Hampshire. He's got a lot of confidence on his side. Like I said, the incident at Bristol last week had nothing to do with him. So he should still carry that confidence forward into New Hampshire. And 3rd and 8th in 2 out of the last 3 races here with qualifying or starting spots at 4th and 8th, pretty good. So if he qualifies well, I think he's in for a good day. Just keep it together. He's got to have that edge. We talk about that with Wallace a lot, about being able to be in the right mindset to make the right move at the right time. Losing out at Daytona because of the last corner move and things like that. You're right to question that. But the consistency there is now, which I like. And I think that bodes well for a good finish at New Hampshire. Without a doubt, a fantasy player. He could be a contender for the win. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, and look, I had him as my long shot driver last week. So but again, long shot. I'm getting long shot numbers. I'm willing to roll the dice, but only as a long shot. Okay, which means if you're thinking about Wallace, Kevin, take him now. Don't wait until qualifying, because I think the odds are fine. Just roll the dice that he's going to qualify reasonably well. I would do that, because I wouldn't want to be taking Bubba Wallace at 12-1 or 14-1. I like 22-1. All right. As far as these 3 drivers, Preece is the one that sticks out for me because he is a local driver, so that has impact. And his best finish was last year when he finished 11th after starting 31st. He's never started in the top 20. He now is with a new team. So Ford, new team, nothing wrong with Ford at this track, as I said before. So I'd be okay with Preece. Bowman has not had a good history here, and he's got to be in a bad mindset after being eliminated. So I think you got to give him a little break, maybe a week or 2 off to try to get that brain going again. Hocevar, meanwhile, he just hasn't done very well at these tracks this year.
Yeah, his only start in this series at this track, started 20th, finished 17th, just kind of average. yeah, I'm not choosing anybody out of this group, but if I had to, I'd probably go with Ryan Preece, only because he is a local driver. He started 31st in this race last summer and clawed his way all the way up to 11th position. So he's another one that you want to be looking at to see if he qualifies a little bit better, has the potential to finish up front if he does, or further up front if he does.
And with all these big numbered long shot drivers, there are two drivers that stick out for me. One that clearly does, and that's John Hunter Nemechek. You're getting about 100 to 1 with him. He's driving a Toyota. He's been doing better this year. Matter of fact, last year in this race, he finished 8th, starting 28th. He's got an Xfinity Series win here. So I don't like many long shots this week, but he's one of them. And the other guy that I'm interested in just a little bit, maybe he's a good fantasy play or top 10, Zane Smith at 200 to 1. He's had a couple of decent results on some of these similar tracks, even though I don't know what he did at Martinsville, 16th, so not terribly bad. So anyway, what about you? Any of these long shots, these 90 to 1 or higher long shots that you're interested in?
Maybe Eric Jones, probably more from a fantasy standpoint. He's got 4 top 20 finishes from his last 4 New Hampshire starts, last 2 being 11th and 13th. He started not inside the top 20 in any of those starts, and he came from 30th or worse to finish 11th and 13th. So he's another one where if he can just get a little bit better on the qualifying for the race, I think he's got the potentially for a top 10, if not certainly top 15.
All right, let's go with picks. You got the first pick.
I will go with Briscoe as my choice.
Okay, so the question then is, do I go with Bell or do I'm going to go with Hamlin. I just can't go with 3 to 1.
I'll go Wallace as my second.
Second choice, Wallace, 22 to 1. Okay. Let's see. Should I go that route or? Nah, I got to go ahead and take Logano at 9 to 1. 9 to 1, right? Or is he 7 to 1? No, 7 to 1. Actually, 7 to 1. I don't want him at second at 7 to 1. It's too low. I thought he was 9 to 1. Yeah, let's see. Is there anyone else that I would go with? I guess not. I guess I'll take Keselowski.
All right. I will take Gibbs as my final shot.
And I'll take John Hunter. So we've taken 5 out of 6 Toyotas. I guess that's not a surprise.
I say watch a Ford win or make it even worse, a Chevrolet.
Oh,
First time since 2016.
Yeah, that would be good. Let me take a look here. Again, Kansas is next week. So let's see. Larson's won 2 out of the last 3 Kansas races. Let's see. Where's the NextGen cutoff? Right here. So Bubba won Kansas.
Yep.
Lots of Toyotas and Chevys. So not good sign there. Boy, this is not a good 3 races for Blaney.
No,
he is.
Does have the unlikely win at the Roval, but he has a way of figuring out how to get through. So I think he'll do it. Just consistent execution, avoid problems. He can do it. Others are going to have problems. He just needs to take advantage of them.
Yeah, let's see. Top 10. Kansas. Well, it's another good sign maybe for Briscoe. There's Hamlin. Keselowski's not a playoff driver. So Logano. Elliott's been okay here. He's got a win. Blaney hasn't been bad. He's got 9 top 10s and 5 top 5s. So that's not bad. So because of that, he'll probably be 7 to 1 again or 6 to 1. There's Bell.
Probably.
Reddick's got a win. Chastain has a win. Bubba has a win. Okay. And Chase does not have a good history here, but he's got Truex's car. All right. So there you go. That's next week. And I'll be on, as far as our NASCAR fans, I will be on, I believe, right around 5 o'clock, I think, on Saturday. That's the time frame, because I think they're going to be qualifying around 3, something like that. So the race is at 2 o'clock on Sunday. So make sure, hopefully they'll start at 2:15 or something and not like 2:45, because it is, and I'm glad they're starting a little bit earlier now. I think they might be going on one of those runs too, where they're going to start a little bit earlier. So they've got 2 on Sunday. No, I'm wrong. 3 o'clock, back to 3 o'clock, the next 2 races, and then 5:30 Vegas, and then 2 o'clock for Talladega Martinsville. But we still have 3 o'clocks to go, and then a 5:30. So really, there's just 3 2s. So that's not bad. But anyway, that's next week, and then we'll be back again on Friday. I will be back on Saturday, to let you know what's going on with practice and qualifying. CJ, you are going to put your DFS report from RotoWire together and have that ready for everybody on Friday.
That's correct. We'll have best bets, fantasy picks if you play daily fantasy on DraftKings or Fantasy Duel. And like you said, qualifying, we'll have that in the link coming up on Friday. And then also your qualifying is at 4:10 on Saturday. So roughly 5 o'clock, they should be finished. So heading out to some other tracks for the rest of the season, conflicts with football, and then finish it on the West Coast of Phoenix. So some later races coming up on Sunday afternoons. No more night races, I don't think.
Just the Vegas at 5:30. I guess it'll be over at night.
Yeah, it'll be over before it gets dark.
Yeah. All right. So again, we'll see you on for NASCAR fans. We'll see you guys on Saturday, and look out for Kevin's report. He'll give his picks. He usually has a matchup as well. So that should be available on Saturday too. So look out for that. For F1 fans, let me go ahead and make the switch here. There we go. And okay, so here we go. So for F1 fans, it's been a while. How many races have there been since we've talked? 2 or 3?
I believe 3. So what was the one before Monza? I remember Monza because that was the one I was back for. Let's see, which did I miss?
Yeah, because we had, didn't we have one each of the McLarens winning and Max winning?
Yeah, Netherlands. How could I forget the Netherlands? Yes. So Hungary was the last one I was here for. Lando Norris won that one. We had the summer break, and then Holland, or the Netherlands, was the first race back at the end of August. Oscar Piastri from McLaren won that, with Max Verstappen finishing second in his home race. And then Italy, Max Verstappen pulled off the surprise and put the Red Bull back on pole and back out front, and drove to a roughly 19-second win over the McLarens based on some setup changes. Red Bull had a new floor. So there were a couple of things heading Max Verstappen and Red Bull's direction for Monza. Azerbaijan, a different track, though it does have some very long straightaways in it, 2 DRS zones. One straightaway is like 1.5 miles long, the front straightaway. So if you can get a good DRS pull and some drafting going down there, perhaps Verstappen and Red Bull can have some optimism. But given the tighter section on the other half of the course, I do think McLaren still holds the advantage as we go into Azerbaijan this weekend.
Okay, so now the big controversy, or the big news story, since we've not spoken about F1 for the last few weeks, was which race was that?
Which controversy?
Oh, it was like more than one.
Every race.
Okay.
Monza was probably the big controversy with McLaren team orders.
Yes, with McLaren team orders. What race was that?
That was last one, Monza, 2 weeks ago. Yeah, and that contributed to Max Verstappen winning by 19 seconds too. So Verstappen already had the lead. Actually, going into the first corner at the very start, he made a pass off track and ended up giving that position back to Lando Norris, but just passed him probably 2 or 3 laps later. And it seemed like it was Red Bull Verstappen's race to win after that. And then McLaren yet again shot themselves in the foot because later on in the race, they tried to gamble with a potential safety car coming out, so they altered their pit strategy a little bit. They had Piastri come in first, where otherwise they would have had Norris come in and stop first. Piastri's stop went off without a hitch. Then when Norris came in the lap after, ended up having a wheel issue. Took him an extra couple of seconds in that pit stop and ended up cycling back out behind Piastri. So the intention with trying to take advantage of the safety car and switching up the order and bringing Piastri in first was not to have the pair swap positions. So McLaren, after they cycled all through and Norris was behind Piastri when they both returned to the track, they asked Piastri to slow down and let Norris by. So a lot of controversy on that. I'm a fan of, crap happens, deal with it, and therefore Piastri probably should have gone through. You kind of made your bed, lie in it. McLaren seemed to think that it was better to follow up with their intentions and put Norris back in front, as that was their original intention with switching up the pit strategy anyway. It was interesting afterward. There was an interview with Toto Wolff, who's the team principal at Mercedes. And his perspective was that either decision could have been justified and could very, very well have been wrong. I think that the question for McLaren now is that since they had a bad stop and they altered the positions as a result of that bad stop, where do you draw the line? So if something happens that's not one of the driver's fault in the future, do you then, you set the precedent? Do you then switch them again? Or do you say, where do you say it's a racing incident and let it fall where it is on the track versus actually calling the drivers to switch them up? Nonetheless, in Italy, they did. I think that caused a lot of consternation. I was not a fan of it. And at the end of the day, I think it contributed as well to Piastri or neither of them really being able to chase down Verstappen. However, I'm not sure either one of them would have cut much into that 19-second advantage that he had anyway.
Okay, so there is, though, a big difference between how F1 fans feel about this, where they don't like it, compared to, say, American fans who would be not just not like it, but would be absolutely disgusted by it. Mm-hmm. So that's true, right? There's a big difference between how. Or do you say no? The F1 fans are also disgusted by it.
I don't know. Well, that's tough to say. I know they don't like it. There are a lot of voices saying that they shouldn't have done it. It's not. It doesn't fit the sport. I mean, when you're out there in a competition, you're supposed to give it your all, and things happen. And the first text I sent when they switched position on track was, "This is why America never gets behind Formula One, because America just won't stand for that." You saw that happen in NASCAR, and penalties come out. NASCAR creates a rule. You've got to give it your all, and you can't artificially adjust or impact the outcome of a race. They want it to be competitive and everybody fighting for the win. And I think that's what fans missed out on. But at the end of the day, this is Formula One. The most important thing is the team. That's where all the money comes from, is the Constructors' Championship. We talk about this all the time. And by the way, you can't really fault McLaren because they do have a chance to wrap up the Constructors' Championship for 2025 this weekend in Azerbaijan if they put both drivers onto the podium. And I think that's a real possibility. So at the end of the day, they're laughing all the way to the bank. It may not be the best thing for the sport and for the fans, but the way that the profit structure is in Formula One today, that's what we end up getting.
Yeah, I mean, unless the fan base would be really disgusted by it, like really, until that happens, yeah, I mean, it is all about dollars, and why wouldn't they do it? So again, I wouldn't do it, you wouldn't do it, but I guess we understand why they do it.
certainly understand why they do it. There was a lot of backlash in the early 2000s with Ferrari doing this when Michael Schumacher was so dominant. There were a couple of races where Rubens Barrichello and Schumacher's teammates were out winning races, and Schumacher was second. And they called, the leader to let Schumacher by so that he could get the points to be able to
win races.
Exactly right.
Oh, that's even worse.
Even worse, yeah. So I think when it comes down to a win, there's going to be much more outrage. I think people will definitely dislike that. I'm not sure that this one necessarily would have impacted the outcome, because it's two guys that were more than 10 seconds behind Max Verstappen at the time. So it really didn't impact things overall. It does change the championship for the drivers between Norris and Piastri by about 3 points, I think, at the end of the day. Piastri is still ahead. He's still got a decent advantage over Norris. If I were Piastri, I'd be ticked, but he actually played the team card and moved over. But I think the real question again, though, is if something, again, happens outside of the driver's control, a team issue, you set the precedent now. Do you put Piastri back in front when Norris has, when he has an issue for something stupid or silly? And what do you do in the final race of the season if something like that happens? You've kind of opened Pandora's box.
Oh, they can't do anything in the last race of the season.
Yeah, I think from a precedent standpoint, they've got to sit with what they've done, and definitely maybe the rules are different for the last race of the season or when the championship's, set to be decided. But McLaren kind of chose their path, and I think this is what we're going to see from them for the rest of the season. All
right. So as far as the standings are concerned, you said Piastri's got the lead. What are we looking at here now? What kind of a lead is it?
It is a 31-point lead. So, give it a race and a half, that could go away. We've still got, 6-7 races left to go if you include Azerbaijan, and a couple of sprint races. 8 races to go if you include Azerbaijan, and a couple of sprint races thrown in there. Going to be able to claw back Piastri and get the championship. I think Max Verstappen at this point is out of it. He's almost 100 points behind Piastri at this time. So unless he goes out and just wins every single race, including the sprint races, I think he's basically done. So this is a battle between Piastri and Norris. A 30-point lead is nothing to sneeze at. So I think Piastri, without a doubt, has the advantage, but Norris will be able to chip that away if he's able to win some races here.
Okay, so let's see what kind of odds we have here. With that kind of a lead, where would you want to see the odds if you were thinking of taking Norris?
If I were thinking of taking Norris, it's a 2-horse battle, so I'd want at least 5 at this point.
Oh, you're definitely going to get. Well, no, you're not going to get that.
Not going to get that.
What do you think? It'll probably be even.
Probably be roughly even. I think Piastri maybe by a fraction of a point.
Piastri's a heavy favorite.
Yep. 31-point lead.
No, you're getting 260.
I don't know.
It's a little bit.
If your other option, as I said, it's a 2-horse race. If your other option is -4 at this point and it's only a 31-point advantage, I'd go with Lando Norris.
Yeah, this is not a bad idea. I mean, what would, for 30 whatever points, what would he need to do? How many more races we have?
8 more races, including Azerbaijan, and a handful of sprint races as well. So there's plenty of points available. It's 31 points is just a little over a 1-race lead. So Piastri encounters 1 crash, 1 problem. Norris wins that race. They're virtually even.
Okay. So yeah, that's not a bad idea. 260.
Especially when, like I said, these are the 2 that are going to win it. Verstappen, everybody below, they're out of it. I'm going to go with the positive odds and take Norris with that many races remaining. They're in the
What about the upcoming tracks? Do they favor one of the 2 drivers?
So Piastri won Azerbaijan last year. I'd have to look. So we got Singapore, Austin, Socotra, Mexico, Brazil, Las Vegas, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi. Norris has won at several of those tracks. Piastri's won at a couple. I don't know that there's necessarily a style that favors either driver. I think it's more car based. And like I said, they're both in the same car.
Okay.
So if Norris can outpace Piastri, call it maybe 2-3 of these last 8 races, really give Piastri a run for his money, I think he's in it very much as you come down to the final races of the season.
All right. And what about this weekend? As we take a look at the odds for this race, what are we dealing with this track, which is the Baku City Circuit?
Baku City Circuit is a street circuit, but it's got some very long, so very tight and twisty sections, but it's also got some 2 very long straights. The front straight probably a mile and a half long, the back straights at least a kilometer long. So 2 DRS zones. It's a balance between downforce for the city section for tight and twisty, but you have to trim it out for those straights because you will get passed as you enter the brake zone at the end of those straights. So you're going to kind of have to hang on to it through the tight parts in favor of getting maximum speed down these long straights. And certainly, as you see there, McLaren, as I said, was going to be the favorite. Piastri won last year, so it makes sense that he's just very slightly ahead of Norris at this point. The big question mark is Max Verstappen being able to come out at Monza with a dominant victory. They've definitely made progress on their car and their setup. They have some improvements that they put on the car for Monza that made the difference. And Monza is a fast track with 2 or 3 very long, fast straightaways. So is he going to be able to replicate that at Azerbaijan? I think it'll be interesting to see where they're able to how they're able to challenge McLaren. If Verstappen's able to get up there on the podium, perhaps he can give them a run through the remaining races. But I think Azerbaijan is probably stacked toward McLaren at this point, and Piastri would be my favorite.
Okay. Any particular reason why Piastri?
He won last year. He's got a little bit more momentum on his side. He was the one that was in front when McLaren called him back last time out at Monza. So I think he's got something a little extra to prove this weekend by going out and beating his teammate at Azerbaijan.
Okay. And Max, do you think so? You don't think that at 4-1, it's worth the gamble that they have definitely found something, and I better take him now? Because if they have truly found something and he wins this week, then you're not getting 4-1 again for a while.
That's true. I would probably this weekend go for Ferrari over Verstappen. I think Charles Leclerc has a better chance. Leclerc has been very good. Ferrari has been very good at Azerbaijan in particular. And by the way, Ferrari is second in the Constructors' Championship behind McLaren. So that's the team that Red Bull and Max Verstappen really have to overcome. And I'm not convinced that they're there yet. Yes, they were there at Monza, but we'll see what they've got in store at Azerbaijan. I think Charles Leclerc with better odds than Max Verstappen is probably the better way to go this week as a dark horse or a long shot.
Okay. All right. So there you go.
On the constructors, Ferrari at plus 400 might not be a bad shot here as well if you don't want to take McLaren at negative.
All right. Well, a lot to chew on there. And what's the schedule like as far as when do we see another race?
First weekend in October will be at Singapore, which has historically been terrible for Max Verstappen and Red Bull. And then after that, I think in 2 weeks after that, we'll be at COTA in the United States. Texas.
Oh, that's right. They come over here. Mexico, Texas, Nevada. That's weird. Why wouldn't they just go Nevada before San Paulo?
The question has been asked many times.
Oh, has it? Okay.
Nobody's quite sure.
All right. So there you go. That is our coverage for F1 is back. And don't forget, the final race is December 7th. So still a ways to go for F1. NASCAR ends in November, right? November? No. Yes. November.
Week before Thanksgiving, if I'm not mistaken.
Something like that. And you'll have F1 coverage as well?
Yep. We'll have a fantasy preview as well as our best picks, and we can give you that link in the description of this video as well.
Excellent. So that's going to wrap it up for our show here on a Tuesday. We'll be back again next Tuesday, same time, as we'll take a look at the race at Kansas and NASCAR. And then I guess we'll have the week off. for F1. Talk a little bit about what happened in the race at Baku City. And that's going to wrap it up. So thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. All that stuff really helps us to grow as a channel. And as far as the rest of the week here on Proline TV, a lot of football. So football, NFL, college football, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Sprinkle in some horse racing on Thursday. And then also I'll be back on Saturday to let you know what's going on in NASCAR over at New Hampshire for qualifying and practice. For CJ Raduna, I'm Greg DePalma. We'll see everybody next week.